as we were all just talking how weird this is and how we're.
And, I'm sorry, I didn't know you're in person, and thankfully, kind of explained to me that we work, so.
If you need a hard copy, you need a hard copy.
I've scheduled like back-to-back meetings.
That's what we were just
I'm
talking
actually
about.
really looking forward to not doing that
Yeah.
anymore. But my apologies, like, an interview. Yeah, it looks like I need access.
I'm slowly remembering what time it is.
Well, this would be great. I'd like to actually do a little bit less than today, it'd be great.
Isn't this supposed to just automatically connect or?
Used
Should be
to, this computer is connected here before, but.
That's been a
It
while.
should.
Let me just see new PhD what. Connect automatically. Network security key it's asking for. Oh, no, public access.
Yeah, do the public access
Okay.
ones.
I think you are tagged, you're in.
Yes. I thought I was, but
Just
I'm
in case
like,
you were
when you
wondering.
get ready, let me know.
Yeah. Okay, here, this is the back. Yeah, if you have a copy, I don't know, for some reason it's.
Hold on it. I start doodling as soon as I sit
Actually,
down, so.
you can forward it, give this to
Okay,
Danielle.
thank you.
All right,
And
give me
then-
that one back.
Okay, here,
I'll
you can go to that.
scribble on. It
Here,
doesn't
we'll
have
pass it
page
back and
numbers.
forth with you if we need it too.
That's all right,
Okay,
take a minute.
I'm ready, thank you.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Would the clerk take the roll, please?
Andy Kornstrom, Darlene Kloppel,
Here.
Daniel Chenoweth.
Here.
Okay, there's a quorum present. Approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion? So moved. I will second. No discussion? Okay. Call the roll. We don't, do
Actually, we
oh,
don't need a roll call.
We can just, right, okay. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is a motion for approval of minutes to the previous meeting for June the 14th, 2021.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Public participation, is there any member of the public that wishes to speak tonight? Yes.
Matt,
What is your name?
my name is Eric Luttrell. Do I need to stand up or is this?
You don't need to stand up, Eric.
My name is Eric Luttrell and I own Allison Centennial Farms and I'm at the farmers markets on Saturday in Urbana. For 2.5 years, I've been participating in the market without issue regarding my egg sales. Recently, end of last month, I was approached by an inspector and said that I couldn't sell my eggs because they were not held at the proper temperature, which I went ahead and rectified, and now I'm being told that I need a non-standard variance and $100 in order to comply and to get a commercial refrigerator. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the law, or the law was rewritten in 2019. The Illinois Egg and Egg Products Act Rules and Regulation, and I've had lots of issues trying to get a clear written, this needs to be fixed, okay. I went ahead and tried to make that, submitted the form. Now you guys are wanting $100 for that fee which I understand, that's fine. And as I researched more into the law, I tried calling and your contact information on the public website does not work. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So there's no.
From the board?
Yeah, on the main Champaign-Urbana public health visitor website, there's a contact. tab.
For the agency itself,
Yeah,
or for the
agency,
application?
for
Okay.
anything, and it doesn't work. So I tried calling around and not gotten any callback or answer. conversation I did have was, this is the way it is, that I don't care what the law says, and the only thing I'm asking is that the board just follow the state law, or at least redo it when they did it in 2019. And I've got the, specifically for the farmer's market, our eggs are collected every day, and in order to, and we're pretty small, in order to sell them, the state law says nest run eggs must be held and transported at or below 45 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature, which is fine, beginning 36 hours after the time of lay. Our eggs are done every day, and the eggs that we sell on Saturday or late on Friday, because we have such demand. We sell at various stores in town, and they go just as quick as we can produce them. And I'm just asking the board what I can do.
So, I'm sorry, Chair.
Go ahead.
So I'm having deja vu because we had a long egg conversation before COVID. There were other sellers that came from the farmer's market, and I feel like I need to go into deep history to remember the revisions that we made, but we did make revisions at that time because we understand that small sellers may not be selling in bulk. There may not be other things that folks are selling. I think we made a category specifically for people who are selling eggs.
And I think that there was a guy, I think last year, that came around and inspected it, and everything's fine. I can't remember what it's.
You were inspected last year by the Public Health District?
I don't know if we were inspected, but I think his name was Robert. He came around and looked at our stuff and looked at the temperatures, and nice conversation, nice guy. I can't, I don't know his name.
Do you know if he was with Public Health?
Yes, he was with
Okay.
Public Health.
Yeah, and you're saying that nothing changed between then and this time?
This is 2.5 years I've been
Okay.
selling.
Sarah is here from Environmental Health, if you wanna ask her
Yeah, so-
questions, cause Jim
Jim is retired.
is retired.
Okay.
So Sarah's acting, or acting.
Jim, I think it was Jim, actually.
Okay. Yeah, so the issue is that you do have refrigerant for transport and sell. You still owe $100 fee. We'll definitely look into the contact info on the website. That's super helpful feedback. I'm assuming you're saying the email contact on the website? Or was it the phone number?
Phone numbers.
Oh, the phone number, okay. And then, so, if you could clarify what your ask is.
My ask is if you guys could follow the state law.
And in what way are we not following the state law, if you could help clarify?
That's the other thing, I have not, so after I was inspected, I told I could no longer sell eggs until the paperwork was submitted. There was no, what the law was, what the rule was, what your guys' rules are. Nothing was given to me, there's no information submitted, that's the only, that's the.
So you don't know how to pay the fee? Is that what you're saying? You don't know how to pay the $100 fee, the license fee, or whatever it is you need to submit?
Well, I've already had my license for the farmer's market.
Okay.
So this is an additional fee upon the.
So you wanna know whether it's proper that you have to pay $100 fee. You have the application, you can fill it out. But the
Yes.
question is it proper for you to also have the $100 fee on top of it?
Yeah, I've submitted the I think non-standard variance report.
Okay,
And still know that I have to spend the $100 and or obtain a commercial refrigerator when in years past the cooler was.
yeah, and I remember the cooler, we had extensive cooler discussions, and I remember this. So,
I don't know, I wasn't.
yeah.
wasn't part of that.
Okay. No, I'm just saying that we're somewhat familiar, Darlene's new to the board, but when Andy, who's not here today, and myself, we were sitting on the board, we had an extensive conversation and with coolers and whatnot. So I think the question is just, is to ask our staff, if they could clarify what the process is, and if is it the process, that this process is still that there's $100 on top of the farmer's market fee? I'm just trying to remember what we,
So basically what happened during the inspection is the eggs were being stored at room temperature.
I hear
So
that.
they were at 82 degrees.
okay,
So the requirement, which the inspection was emailed right after that, and we found it, smallest print number. Inspection was on June the 12th. And so the correction on here shows that TCS Foods cold holding 41 degrees. This operation, I have a freezer for frozen meat sales. The eggs, I don't have any documentation that that was added. So if he wants to use that refrigeration for the eggs, that's fine. You have the option of doing mechanical refrigeration. 2 was a variance for not using mechanical refrigeration, and that variance fee was the $100 plan review.
okay.
So that was a separate thing. So if he wanted to add that to his existing permit, using mechanical refrigeration, no additional fee is required. It would
Okay.
just add that to the existing permit.
Okay.
So I gave the option of that. The unit would have to, of course, be checked prior to if I was gonna add that. The variance is he has to provide logs that he will maintain the 41 degrees or below. So under the Illinois egg law that we were discussing, it shows eggs on display and in storage must be refrigerated at 41 degrees or below at all times. So the discussion was, he was gonna put them in a cooler and just plug it in as needed, unplug, plug it in. So that's why I needed him to provide proof that it was gonna be maintained at 41 degrees or below.
So how current is your law?
I just printed this off from Department of Ag
Okay.
today. So,
It sounds like it sounds like, probably the next conversation would be helpful, because it sounds like you have the option of using your mechanical refrigerator on site. Or I guess the variance is to use the cooler. I remember we had extensive conversations when we allowed the cooler, because not everybody has a refrigerator on site. So is there a reason you're not able to store the eggs in the refrigerator?
Well,
Or you have needs?
the losses, I don't have, the state losses, I don't have to. I mean, it wouldn't be a problem to store them in a cooler, but upon further review, that's what the law says.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's state law and then we have our local regulations. And so you basically, like any, I've operated a business for 15 years and I had to follow federal, state, and local laws, and so there's layers of those. And so if you don't
Is
have
there a
the written-
difference between the federal?
Sounds
Between the
like,
state-
I mean,
yeah,
the state, I'm
law.
sorry.
still, it sounds like the local law or the public health district requirements require the refrigeration or potential for refrigeration.
But I think Sarah's saying that's the state law. So I think what's gonna have to happen is we're gonna have to ask our legal to look into what is the law, since there's a.
So there would be both the statute, as you've referenced, and then any administrative codes that interpret or further regulate, and the public health district codes. So we can do that perhaps before you leave, if you could write down your phone number and email in case there's further questions, then I can
Sure.
be in touch with the staff and with the director and you.
And, yeah, that was written in 2019.
So what I'm hearing you say the discrepancy seems to be, is that the state law requires 45 degrees beginning 36 hours after you collect the eggs,
After they're laid, yes.
after they're laid. And our law locally, is what she's reading, says all the time. It has to be refrigerated all the
the
time.
retail, yes.
Yeah, at the site of retail.
And they actually mention in that paragraph about farmers markets and selling directly. And I think the intent of the law, which is, I'm not a legal person, but I think the intent is to assist local producers in selling at farmers markets.
Okay.
Yeah, and it says graded and held at a place or room which the temperature may not exceed 45 degrees Fahrenheit. So essentially it has to be held and transported pretty much at all times. at 45 degrees.
And then-
The issue is just
And
that.
then after
Mhm.
the 36 hours.
Yeah, at beginning 36 hours, but I don't think that's the issue of play. I think the issue is just that if you're not using mechanical refrigerant, oh, you're saying that the container basically
Is
is
ambient.
at that amount.
Ambient temperature.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and so we're asking for proof of that, and then we're up, and then it sounds like because it's in a container, there's a fee involved. And so the policy piece for the board to look at would be the fee for the variance. And I think that's kind of like our lane, so to speak.
And to be honest, in reality, in public safety, which I think is what you guys want, is when they're refrigerated to the 41 degrees and they're taken out. And I actually brought some from home, so they sweat.
Mhm.
They sweat a lot, and the eggs are porous and breathable. And when they sweat, any pathogen on the outside, when they are recooled,
Mhm.
they go back inside.
Yeah.
So
I raised chickens and I
Yeah,
know this.
it's- yeah, you-
I know
I
how not
know
to
that.
poison
So
myself.
I
Yeah.
think what let me help me out here. I think what you're saying is that you understand that they're supposed to be kept at 41 or 45 or whatever it is, but you're saying that your eggs are coming directly from the chickens
Directly from the chicken.
within the
and they're
36-hour time frame. Is that what I understand?
Yes, that is exactly.
Okay.
So
Oh,
I,
I see.
Yeah, I think that's what I think that's what the whole thing is,
Mhm.
so.
and then as the consumer picks them up at the farmer's market, they are, we're kind of in the middle of the market, they're walking around for 15, 20, half hour, and the eggs sweat during that time.
I see, so if you cool them and then the consumer picks them up and they sweat, then it could be a risk to the consumer.
There's more of a risk than to actually
Mhm.
bring them to the market when they are at ambient temperature. Because they're laid, okay, for example, this morning, they were laid at anywhere from 10 to noon, collected at noon, cleaned and packaged, and that's the way they go. And then if we have the market tomorrow, we get about 60 dozen eggs, so at the market, we sell them all.
Mhm.
And we've got.
How many, 60?
60, yes.
How many chickens do you have?
60 times 12, right?
Yeah. And so these are our egg collectors, and they're actually in the car right now. I didn't want to bring them in, so.
The collector's not
The
the
children.
chicken.
The collectors, the children,
The children,
yeah.
yeah, I've got an egg collector.
So that's the only thing I was just trying to bring up, and it's been kind of not fun. But anyway, I didn't mean to take so much of
No,
your
that's
guys'
fine.
time.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think the question is just looking at the law and looking at our policies and making sure that we are aligning our policies with the interest of public health. And there are questions in that, like how do you prove when a chicken lays an egg, and, how do we make sure that when they get to the end consumer that they're safe to consume? So we appreciate your input, and we'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
I can pass this on to
Do you need that card back?
No, I've got.
Is that's his phone number and stuff?
Yeah, it's got my
Is that-
copy.
Okay, so you're just gonna keep that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you telling me you don't wanna stay for the entire rest of the meeting?
As much as I would like to,
It's in a hot car.
we have a Civil Air Patrol meeting over at the airport, and then I have to feed them, so.
You better hurry up if you're gonna make jarlings before you get there.
Yes. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public wishing to speak? Public here. Okay, great. Moving on to correspondence. Any correspondence?
I think I sent you guys an email, but the exciting thing was that we wrote, Waste and I wrote a grant to NACHO for the mobile unit for the immigrant cooperative, but we got it. I'm not gonna say we weren't a little bit surprised, because we were. I'm always optimistic, but I was still a little surprised, so I'm happy. And then today, Illinois Department of Public Health contacted us, and they want us to take our model that we've got going here with the immigrant cooperative, and they're going to pay us to basically help other places in the state replicate that. So we'll be looking at that, writing that up, and hiring some people to help out with that. Because we're not doing it.
just brief correspondence, because housing is a public health issue.
Mhm.
So, CU at Home closed in, I think it was, late May, early June, late May, hoping to open in June. They're not able to, the latest information is they may be able to open at the end of August. The City of Urbana inspector came to Roadway Inn where Courage Connection, Cunningham Township, and RPC all have had homeless families and individuals staying, including folks who came from CU at Home and were medically fragile or had other issues, and then, and were put up in hotels. And so now because Roadway is not an extended stay, actually most of the hotels that we've been putting people up in, all of the different collectives, are not extended stay, they're limited to 28 days. So Township is looking at pausing its program. Evictions started on June 25th. I've had multiple families reach out to me to say that they've been evicted. It is just for those who did not submit their COVID declaration to their landlord. A lot of people who were COVID impacted did not do that because it's a certain level of bureaucracy and it's difficult to know how to do it, even though we've told everyone we've spoken to that they need to do this. So families are starting to get evicted. We've seen an increase in the number of people who have asked us. We now are facing the shutdown of our program. CU at Home remains closed, even though they said they were, hoping to remain open June 15th. And I am speaking up at every meeting that I'm at to ring the bell and say that I think this is something we're gonna have to look at, because we're just at the beginning of the wave of the eviction moratorium, and although there is more money, RPC has a lot of money that they can give for rental assistance. The people who will not get it are those who have traumatic brain injury, mental health issues, or just not able to navigate those systems. And so that tends to be the folks that we see. So of course, we want everybody to apply for rental assistance, but the rental assistance, and I confirmed this with Land of Lincoln today, John Roska at Land of Lincoln, if your lease is up, they don't have to renew it, you may have to leave. And so people, leases come up in the summer, you're not covered by the eviction moratorium at this point under that, and so we're seeing leases come up, we're seeing people evicted, and then our program is at risk. Emergency family shelter is completely full. So I think I'm ringing the bell because it's gonna look really bad in the next 2 months.
I did not realize they weren't opening till the middle of August.
Yeah, they're hiring. I don't have an official word, but they're hiring, their hires are in place. I've requested multiple times. This is not to blame CU at Home. I actually think it made sense for them to close when they closed. Personally, I thought that for safety reasons was a good idea. But my best guess, based on the information I have, is end of August. So basically, I think we're in real dire straits. There's not other programs. And Courage Connection is out of money for hotel stays. So we are now getting calls from people from Courage Connection who, still have abusers in town and they don't have enough money. So I'm gonna say it at town board tonight, I'll write a press release about it, whatever is needed, but it's definitely an escalating situation. And when I got that memo yesterday saying, because we actually have the money, but we have to be able to put someone in a hotel that we have a relationship with for more than 28 days. Our average stay is 29 days, it's 39 days. So I don't know what to do.
What about some of so they can't get in the extended stay ones, or they're too expensive?
We could retool we have purchased a building for our emergency shelter. It has to go through a special use permit process. That process has been delayed because of pushback from a very few number of people in the neighborhood. And so we will hopefully have 4 units available at the end of August. That's where we're.
How many families or how many units are you talking about needing?
Right, well, I can speak for Township that the units we're looking for housing, and again, we have case management and we have some funding. We actually need places. Right now we have 8 people in shelter, which is more than we usually have. 6 is usually our cap, but because of CU at Home being closed, we have more. We are also supporting a tent city in downtown Urbana and another one at the Walmart and a car city and then another one at Crystal Lake Park. So there's also people are actively unsheltered where we're working with them, you know, and we've been helping people get out of town. If we can get them into Decatur or Danville, we actually pay for their transportation and we get them COVID tested and we basically work with that shelter to move them into shelter. So, you know, we've been doing a lot of that. Ruth?
Sort of outside my role as counsel for Public Health District, but I work and do a free legal clinic for immigrants with the New American Welcome Center, and one of the things that I've been working with them about, because we're continuing the clinics and expecting, of course, the avalanche of evictions, is to try to work on renewal of leases with sort of contracts, so that if the landlord would agree, asking the landlord to agree to enter into the lease in exchange for X amount of dollars or this sort of payment backward, because there's tenants who owe $2,000, $4,000. If you don't have that money to pay, don't waste it paying to a landlord that your lease is going to be up on and then have no money. And so working with them to create, you know, lease addendums or contracts or that sort of thing. And so perhaps working with them, I don't know if Land of Lincoln is willing to do that, but I'm happy to try and help with those issues as well. I also know that one of my friends who's homeless, he and his fiance stay at Lincoln Lodge, and there's almost no rooms there. That's $250 a week. And extended stay, there's like no room. So I think the hotels are really filling up as well.
They are. I mean, we've had multiple, we now have to shift people around because our costs were increased by 100%. And we're seeing no vacancies, which we expected. That's why we bought the property to do this. But anyway, if there are spaces people know of, if there are resources available, I feel like I'm, you know, I'm gonna be reaching out to folks. It's just happening faster than I expected, and there's some unanticipated bumps in us being able to continually shelter people. So this is my correspondence. Thank you, Darlene.
Okay. Any old business? I see none. Moving on to new business, treasurer's report.
The financial statements as of the end of May 2021 shows a balance sheet with cash at the end of May of $4,772,876. The total fund balance is $6,274,695. That's representing 34% of our budgeted expenditures for the year. We ended the 11th month of the fiscal year with a surplus of $1,596,242. On the income statement side, we have revenues just above $15 million, which is about $2 million under the year-to-date budget, mainly due to grants and contracts, which is under year-to-date budget by $1,832,078. Expenditures for the 11 months is at $13,520,266, which is about $3.3 million under the year-to-date budget, and the greater majority of that is personnel and benefits.
Okay, thanks. Any questions about treasurer's report? Okay, we'll accept that and place it on file. Next two I'm going to take together: approve of payments to the Board of Health appointees for the treasurer, Ron Fields, in the amount of $425.40. Request number 1837, and payment to attorney Ruth Lyman in the amount of $550. Request number 1862.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Any discussion on those? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next is the review of the monthly credit card statements. Were there any questions about those?
It didn't have any.
Okay, thank you. Those are placed on file. Ratification of the contract for fiscal year 2022 prep program between CUPHD and IDHS for the time period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 in the amount of $115,192. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Ratification of the Microsoft tune-up. I'm looking here. Ratification of the Microsoft tune-up for Microsoft software products in the amount of $39,311.29. Check request 1706. Do you have a problem if we take all these check requests together? Do you have any that you want to have a discussion about?
No, you didn't have a question.
Okay, I'm gonna continue on then. Approval of check for the quarterly reimbursement of Champaign food license fees for the quarter of April 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021 in the amount of $5,030. Check request 1820. Approval of a check for the quarterly reimbursement of Urbana food license fees for the quarter of April 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021 in the amount of $15,409. Check request 1821. Approval of lease agreement between CUPHD and Avicenna Community Health Center for office space at 201 West Canyon Road, Suite 4E, Champaign, for the time period of August 1st, 2021 to July 31st, 2021 in the amount of $1,000.
It should probably be 22.
Oh, yep, it should.
20.
Yeah, 22.
July 1st, 2022, 31st, 2022, in the amount of $1,000 per month. Approval of payments for Medicare supplies to support C.1 medical surge operations in the amount of $8,348.45. Check request 1798.
So moved.
I will second.
Just quick clarifying question, for 6 and 7, is the end date 2022 as well, or is it 2021?
22.
Okay, so basically if my motion could show that.
Well, no, wait a
No,
minute,
those
the
are
Champagne
quarterly
food
reimbursements.
license
Those are quarterly?
fee,
Okay.
yeah, those are
So it's just
reimbursements, I'm sorry.
the number 8, which you already revised
It's the lease
to
agreement,
2022?
right.
Okay, yeah, that just takes care of my concern.
Okay,
That, no changes.
those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? And the motion carries for items 5 through 9. Now we have the discussion of RFP for audit services. Who's gonna do that discussion? Okay,
So basically, I'm looking for your guidance on what you want me to do next month's agenda. But I sent out the RFPs because we've had this auditor now for 5 years. So I sent one out and I've asked them to get them back to me by July 23rd. Then I figured that I would go through them and filter out any that you know for sure you don't want if that happens. If you wanted a presentation, I said I would let them know by August 6th. And then you would actually decide at the next board meeting who gets awarded the RFP.
so what other information will you give us if we don't have interviews or presentations?
I can give you whatever they send me if you want me
So
to.
that we can read through them? Okay. I
But
would
that's
like-
what I'm asking, how do you want to go about this? Another thing I want to say is since I've done this so late, I mean, I don't know if I'll get responses or not, but if I don't get a response, the current auditor did say that they would do it, but they want a 3-year agreement, because you're gonna have to combine it with another office to get it done.
When's the RFP due, or the response due?
The 23rd,
Of July, and you put it out already?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I would like to see the RFP and then the responses, if you can send them electronically, if you want, instead of by hard copy.
Mhm.
That-
Yeah, that should be fine. I'm assuming there would be a price and a scope of work attached to
Yeah, I
that.
asked for all of that, so.
Yeah, and so I think that that would be sufficient. I don't feel like I think I know every auditor in town at this point.
No, not all of them have.
Oh, there might be some out of town.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could look through them and then decide if we need to have a
So do
presentation.
you want me to include them in the board packet, or just give an outline of them in the board packet of the agenda?
Well, I'd like their responses, and it's fine that they're in the board packet
Yeah,
with their
that's fine.
responses and their prices.
Okay.
And then if somebody is outside of town or we don't have familiarity with them, I would want to know, and I'm assuming this is in your scope of work, what their experience working with the public health district is.
I'll
So it's a
have
little
that.
bit of a different animal, so that would make a difference.
Was that one of the questions? So that'll be in the
Okay.
proposals?
Yep.
So yeah, then we can Yeah, just put them in the packet, and then at the next meeting, if we feel like we need to have a presentation after that, we can let you know. But I think that should be sufficient, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, pending grant contracts for the administrator to sign. Just,
Is there, I don't think they're in the, is there one in there?
I didn't see
Looking at
it.
I don't remember.
Looks like CUPHD EHS Family Case Management
Oh,
in the amount of $576,800 to maternal and child health.
I think that was a budget one, but if there's a rent contract, I thought I'd seen one, but I might.
Are you sure?
I don't
This
think
is,
I saw one, that was the last thing.
that's the last page, usually that's where the contracts are to sign. It
July.
says July
that,
2021.
that's it, that's
think
it.
we're
That's it?
Mhm.
Oh, it says awaiting approval for administrator to sign,
Mhm.
so, okay. So we are voting on whether to approve the administrator to sign contract between CUPHD and IDHS Family Case Management for $576,800 for maternal and child health from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And
So moved.
we ratified the contract earlier.
Mhm.
So now we're saying that the administrator can sign them. I'm not sure why do we need 2 steps for that, Julie?
Not really. You
We
don't
already
really-
ratified it.
No, I mean,
Okay.
normally what I would do is, and clearly I did not pay attention to that, but it would just be, it's the same thing. So it's already been approved, so you're ratifying. What Fred always said to say is that you guys are ratifying the fact that I had already been given permission to sign that.
Okay.
We
So-
bless you and we bless
Right,
you.
I mean, that's what you're doing, you
Okay.
This back to
because
me.
there's the mechanism for me getting approval outside of the meeting for something and then,
Okay.
okay, so.
Would you like to motion that we ratify her?
Sure, I can.
Certify, ratify.
Ratify.
Put into an institution of some sort.
And I'll second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. You are ratified.
Thank you.
I'm gonna feel good.
Yes, I won't be going to prison for that.
Next meeting is do we need a study session in July on the 28th? Do we have things for a
It's
study
good
session?
budget type stuff.
You don't think so? Okay, well, we might cancel that one then.
Yeah.
And then the monthly board meeting, August 9th, 2021 at 4:30 PM.
It will always be here for now, in person.
And yes,
Okay.
until we get until COVID is gone and we
Okay.
get our main
And-
conference room back.
Okay, and so to get here, we should always come to the main
Yes,
entrance
that's the
and,
easiest
and
way.
plead at the door.
Before 4:30.
Okay,
Before
When you lock
4:30.
the door. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I know.
So did you have a problem with this?
No, I got here right at 4:30 and they were locking up.
Oh, okay. I always try to come and get some free food and then I.
Oh, where do I get free food?
In the lobby.
Oh, all right. You asked the free food.
Oh, you're talking about the bread?
Yeah, the bread and the vegetables.
Yes, I'll do that next time. All right. And thus said, the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you. All right. So you guys, Sarah will copy you and you guys can figure out what's
Learn more
going on,
about
what's
chickens and eggs.
what's the badge temperature
about
of the